Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining in for this month's podcast. It is the month of April and we will be focusing on sexual assault. This is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. As you know, I'm Kayla St. Eliard. I'm with the Agency for Substance Abuse Prevention, ASAP for short, here in Oxford, Alabama. And today we have Miss Pam joining us. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm very glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad that you're here. I'm very excited. I was telling my husband last night, I was like, we're going to have a podcast today. We're going to talk about some very important issues. So I've really been looking forward to this one.
And I'm looking forward to people understanding more about sex trafficking and how sexual assault is part of that.
Absolutely. So will you go ahead and just let me know your title and position and what agency you do work for?
Yes, I'm a volunteer. Our team here in Oxford, we're all volunteers. I'm the Oxford area lead volunteer for Trafficking Hope. We're an anti-human trafficking group specifically working to eradicate sex trafficking. And we do that several different ways. Coalition building like we have here. Awareness, we set up awareness booths at different places. We'll have an awareness booth set up in East Aboga for race weekend. We have rescue, but we don't like to call it rescue. It's restoration. We work with police departments and we try to help them when they identify a possible victim, help them as advocates to get services. And we work on educating any organization that would like for us to come in and talk with them about sex trafficking and human trafficking. We would love to come talk to them. And we also partner with victim services.
Awesome.
Because someone coming out of trafficking services is critical. And we partner with the Well House in the Birmingham area, but we also work with other organizations to get help for victims.
That's pretty cool. So is it just like counseling kind of?
It's intensive counseling. Sometimes someone coming out of trafficking, maybe they have a substance use disorder, and it's really important that that be addressed first. So if they need detox or recovery, we try to find them placement there, and then when they come out, they come into the Well House. It's intensive therapy because they've experienced complex trauma. And it's important for them to get help with that trauma. And it's just really someone who's been trafficked and under the control of a trafficker. They've been maybe sexually assaulted 10, 30 times a day, depending on the quota that the trafficker sets for them. And so it's really intense. And they need a lot of help. And we volunteer to try to get them connected to that help. And sometimes it might be transport. We may help transport someone for help, our advocates.
That makes me so sad knowing that goes on. And I mean, I learned about human trafficking a long time ago. There was this movie on Lifetime. I think it was literally just called Human Trafficking. And I was maybe about 13 years old. And I remember my mom sat me down and we watched the movie together. It was about a 4-hour, well, I guess you could say it was like a mini series, but it was about 4 hours. Because she wanted me to be educated and, let me know that stuff like this happens in real life to real people. And it literally just devastated me just seeing how women and men, people were coerced into different situations that they didn't want to be a part of or just tricked. Like, I think there was a modeling agency on there that was like, we're going to send you to America and let you be a model. And they were sent over here and just passed around from location to location and made to do very horrendous things. And ever since then, that movie has literally just stuck with me, and that's something that I've always just wanted to make sure I was very educated on. And I try and look for the signs of different things. Like if I'm out and I see something weird happening, I'm like, do I need to call somebody? Is this a weird situation?
And that's great because you have a great mom who's watching out for you, and that's what we try to do. We try to educate. It could be a modeling agency pretending to offer jobs. A lot of the times it's a boyfriend. And he's going to be, helping take care of you, and all of a sudden he's asking you to sell yourself so you can have a bright future, and then it's just someone's caught up in it before they realize it.
Yeah.
And it's a tough place to be. So I'm glad that your mother helped educate you, and that's prevention, and that's part of what we try to do. We try to prevent someone first from going into it, but when someone's in it, to also give them a pathway out.
Yeah.
If they need that help, that's why we're here. We want to help them.
Yeah, and that's I'm so glad that we do have people like you out there that actually want to help, because I know there's some people that just literally turn a blind eye to it, and I've even heard some people say things as like, oh, they probably asked for it, or they probably wanted to be a part of it. I'm like, nobody wants to be sold. Nobody wants to be, forced to do things that they wouldn't normally do on a daily basis.
And you're exactly right, because that's one of the things I've had to overcome in educating people. Why don't they leave? That's a question you get up. Well, they have a trauma-based relationship, and it's not easy for them to leave because they've been manipulated first off. But there's fear there too, but it's fear with what's known as opposed to fear as to what's unknown. And it's just really important. The biggest obstacles I have to overcome in educating is what people traditionally think of as prostitution. Okay, people who are being prostituted, a high number of them, some put it at over 80%, are under the control of a trafficker. They're not, and even if they're not, it's like you said, nobody wants to be sold. Nobody wants that trauma, because it is trauma associated to them. So it's important. And the other, where people don't really want to talk a lot about, is pornography fuel sex trafficking. And it is a public health crisis, not only because of the connection to sex trafficking, but the connection for the person who's viewing pornography. And our young people right now, it's rewiring their brains into not having relationships with live human beings. And then people who are in porn addiction, they get caught up in this, and their needs are escalating. And it fuels trafficking. Traffickers, they're master manipulators. They work off of all of that. They are tuned into people's vulnerabilities and to exploit those. And they're very good at what they do. And so we try to educate the public about what to watch for. And if you see something, say something. The National Human Trafficking Hotline wants everything called in, and then they'll filter through what looks like it needs to be referred on to law enforcement. We're very proactive. We're very pro-law enforcement. The law enforcement community has been very helpful in trying to get victims help.
That's awesome that people are, you're actively partnering together, because people, have their certain views of law enforcement. But I'm like, there are really guys out there that's trying to put themselves literally on the line to try and get people help, to try and remove people from certain situations. And I'm not going to say that they don't have to do it, but they understand, like, I could literally lose my life over something like this, but they, try and get out there and help anyways, and that makes my heart very happy.
And some departments are still getting the training but Tuscaloosa Police Department, we're going to talk a little bit about them in a few minutes. They're very victim-centered. A lot of your law enforcement, they know now what to watch for, and I have seen a local police department stay on the phone for hours trying to get help for a victim.
Wow.
And so that's very encouraging.
Yeah, that is encouraging. So, how often do you see these victims of human trafficking or sexual assault?
It depends on where you are. Here in Oxford, we don't have what we call night outreach, where we go, but in Birmingham we do. Our organization does. So you go out, you build a relationship, actually going out once a month, connecting, and eventually someone may call for help. Here in our area, where we have what we call online outreach, and we try to reach women who may be trafficked in this area via texting and building a relationship with them. When you do the online outreach, you need 3 advocates to help per person because of the needs and trying to get help. So the numbers really, I can't tell you how many we help as a rule, and I know last year for our organization it was approaching 200. I can tell you that that's just touching the surface.
Yeah.
And the more people we are very blessed here in Oxford, we have a team of us. There are about 13 volunteers. They each have their own area. Those 5 areas I was talking about earlier, they each connect in some way.
Yeah.
So we are very thankful that we're able to reach out. In prevention, all of it's important. But victim services and connecting someone for help is where our heart is. Mm-hmm. And so anyone can call and say, this person may be trafficked, we don't know. Well, let's do an assessment. Mm-hmm. We're here to help you. Sometimes they refuse help, and that's fine. They're making their choices.
Yeah.
But we've helped them understand that there's somebody out here who cares for them and who wants to help for them. And I can tell you there's a lot of women, men, young people in this area who need help, and we just haven't had the resources. Yeah. But we're working on that. We have a plan in place. We cooperate in our coalition building with the Junior League. They have an anti-human trafficking group with the Junior League. And so we've been working with them. We have a team lead, Tanya, and she's been going out with their president-elect, and we put posters courtesy of the Junior League in gas stations along I-20 and gas stations off of I-20 that says, if you need help, please call. Or if you see something, say something, here's a number to call. Mm-hmm. And
that's really good, because I know I-20 is definitely a major traffic area, that entire highway.
It is.
Every time I get on it, like we're headed to Atlanta or something like that, my husband's like, what are you looking for? I'm like, listen, I'm on the lookout. I'm trying to see, I'm trying to say, see something, say something. I'm trying to save some lives, because you just never know. And
you don't.
There's so many different ways that they do traffic. You might never know. Like, you could be riding past an 18-wheeler and it could be full of people, but you just never know it. But if, that's very important that you say, if you see something, say something, because you never know whose life you may be saving.
And it could be, I was in Gadsden with my husband one time, and there was all the signs were there, and there was a lady and a gentleman there where we were eating, and she was very much being trafficked. And you could tell, but there was not anything. She would have denied being trafficked, because that's kind of the conditioning sometimes. Yeah. So sometimes when you see it, you understand it, but maybe you can't act right then. But if in a bathroom, let's say if we've got a poster or signage in a bathroom and she goes in, and then she has the resource to call at that time. Some people think it's only white vans in the neighborhood watching to kidnap, and that's so often not the case. We teach our children, stranger danger, be aware, but we don't lock our devices. Yeah. And that's how a trafficker often connects with his victims. It's through game chat rooms with children, or it could just, and they often pose, it may be a 50-year-old male sitting there, but he's pretending to be a 16-year-old. And he finds that vulnerability with our children, and then convinces them that he's experiencing the same thing. And then they build up this relationship online. And so we lock our doors at night, but we don't lock our devices. And then our children go out that door to meet a trafficker, because this trafficker understands them. Yeah. Nobody, he's worked very carefully, and I use he and she, but it can be both ways. Yeah. Works very carefully to build up this relationship, because there's no need for chains and all the psychological chains have been put in place. They go out the door not understanding what they were walking out and who they're walking out to meet and what that can mean for them. Yeah. And it's very sad.
It's very scary too, and it kind of, I know you can't really shelter, your children, you can't really, but it kind of makes you want to just hold on to them and protect them from as much as you possibly can.
And this gets, when I'm talking to a group of maybe parents and young people, this is where the young people ask me to not talk anymore. It's parents, please put some kind of monitoring system on your child's phone. It's not that you're telling them, I don't trust you, because that's a hold up a lot of times. I don't want them to think I'm not trusting them. You're telling them, I'm protecting you, and I'm protecting you from that person that's on the other side that I can't trust. Yeah. You know, I trust you all day long, but I can't trust that person on the other side of that phone.
Yeah, my mom used to say that. She was like, I trust you, but I don't trust anyone else. And I don't trust them, you know, around to make. I know you'll make the good decision, but I don't trust them to make the good decision.
I'm liking your mom. I need to do it, your mom.
when I was younger, I used to be like, oh, my mom is so overprotective, but she literally saved me from.
She was watching out for you
so much, because there's so much like kids these days get involved in, and I could have gotten involved in, but because she kind of had that extra hand on me and was like, not only was she protecting me, but she was educating me along the way.
And that's good.
And so it kind of, I had my eyes open for different things, and I was able to thankfully avoid certain situations and take her advice on things and just be more aware. And so I feel like every parent should be like that. You know, still let your kids, you know, enjoy the life of.
You don't want them terrified, afraid, stuff, but you do want them cautious.
Exactly. You want them you just want to prepare them. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
For what possibly could happen, and just pray that it never happens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So here,
if it does happen, I'm sorry, real quick.
No, you're fine.
It's very important that they have a safe person to talk to, and that shame is not attached to it.
Yeah.
And if, as a parent, my child is not comfortable coming to me, I need to make sure there's someone else that they are comfortable talking with. Yeah. And sometimes that's hard that was hard for me as a parent. My kids are grown now, but I need to make sure they have someone that they feel safe can talk to, because it's about their safety.
Yeah. And I think too is what I'm learning now that I'm, you know, becoming older and getting adulting, they like to call it,
which can be difficult.
Yeah. I'm trying to be that person that I can be that safe adult, because growing up they say, you know, always talk to an adult you can trust. And I always want to make sure that I'm that adult.
That's great.
Like, if a kid is going through something, you can come to me. I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to try and shame you. I want to genuinely help you. Let's see what we can do to try and fix whatever's going on. And so I'm really hoping, and especially when I have my own child, I'll have my own child here in a few months, I can be that parent where they come and they're just like, Mom, I got something to tell you. And, you know, they may not be too proud of whatever they have to tell me, but I still want them to be comfortable enough. Like, Mama's going to be there. You know what I'm saying? The same with their father. I know he's going to be a great dad. He's going to be that dad they can go to. So I'm really excited about that. And I just hope that a lot of adults, and thankfully all my coworkers are literally the same way. They're like, where we can be that safe place. And I feel like it's important, like you said, for every child to have, where they can come with no shame.
Exactly. Because a trafficker, a manipulator, will use shame as leverage. You know, nobody's going to want you now. No one's going to want to talk to you. Look what you've done. And so it's up to us to make them understand the shame belongs to the abuser. The shame does not belong to the person being abused or assaulted. And but it's hard. They've been conditioned so much to believe everything's their fault. That it's important for them to understand it's not. But it may not be an easy task getting them there.
And I think that's just the cycle of abuse. Like, and you know, really, I tell a lot of people, like, a lot of people don't understand it, but I'm like, until you're in that situation, or until you educate yourself on that situation, you may not truly understand it. That's why I tell everybody, you have to educate yourself. You have to, you know, be more aware and things, and I feel like that'll just help overall with what you can do for others.
It does. I would encourage anyone, if you don't understand what trauma bonding is, Stockholm Syndrome, all of that plays into domestic violence, but also into trafficking. If you understand that, you start to understand why people don't leave. If they may not be locked in a room with a key, but they're locked in a room psychologically because their trafficker has put them there and has used everything he knows to keep them there. And so it's just really important to understand that.
Thank you so much for that, Miss Pam. That was awesome. So here at ASAP, we focus on substance abuse, and we focus on prevention. That's our thing. And how often do you see, because I was doing some research and I noticed that opioids were the most commonly used drug that they go after people that they already know maybe have a problem, or they use it to keep them, you know, doing what they're continuing to doing. Like I read a few stories of women and men were saying, well, I was giving these drugs so I could perform the job and perform it as many times as they needed to. And so when they do seek help, they have a big substance misuse disorder. And how often do you come across stuff like that?
Actually, I did a little research for the numbers, but they say roughly a third of the people that are being trafficked have a substance use disorder. Mm-hmm. But that's self-reporting. I really feel like that number is higher. Mm-hmm. Because of just what you just said. Substance abuse, addiction, first opens up a vulnerability that a trafficker is going to play on. Mm-hmm. Or if he or she has a victim, and they transition from victor to survivor, and it's important for people to understand. We call them survivors when they overcome so much. But the trafficker will use drugs to keep them compliant. Mm. And what the trafficker will do is if they're not already in a substance use disorder situation or addiction, they will use those drugs to get them there. Mm-hmm. And then they'll threaten withdrawal. You're going to do what I say do. Yeah. Or we're withholding these drugs. Well, withdrawal is horrific.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they are using it to coerce, and you have to have coercion, fraud, is part of the trafficking, and so they will use that as a form of coercion to keep them to do. Or sometimes we have a powerful little video, and there's a woman in there who says, yes, I used. Why wouldn't I? I need to forget that I'm being sold as a slave day in and day out. So sometimes it's used to help disassociate, try to put that distance between the horrific things that are being done to them. And so it's very integral. And that's why we build coalition. Mm-hmm. ASAP's been huge about helping us get in this community in coalition building. We Ross, mm-hmm. Self Recovery, Second Chance, different organizations where if I have someone coming in needing help, well, they may need your help first.
Yep.
And sometimes I get called about possible trafficking victim, but it's a victim of domestic violence. And so we need to work together in coalition build so we can get them the help that they need. Yeah. As far as I think that 33% is very low.
Yeah.
Because it was all self-reported. And so if you're trying to get help, sometimes you're not going to tell them that you have a substance use disorder. You just want to go right then to get some help.
Yeah.
And so I do believe that number is higher, but that's the number actually the Police Chief Association across the United States, they use that. It's roughly a third. Yeah. I would put it higher.
I would too, because I think there's, that shame, like I said, that comes with it. They don't want anyone to maybe know, so they're not going to, tell.
Right.
Yeah. And so tell me a little bit more about what you said the Tuscaloosa.
The police. I wanted to tell you just a really quick story. I know.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
So I'm going to use her name as Samantha.
Yeah.
We're going to call her Samantha. So she, back in 2017, the Tuscaloosa Police Department and the Human Trafficking Task Force there are very victim oriented. Mm-hmm. They actually, the human trafficking, some of them go and train other departments to show that when that person's sitting in front of you, mm-hmm. let's not focus, they're a victim. A lot of times these women who are being arrested for prostitution are victims. Yeah. So in 2017 there was a sting, and Samantha was picked up. But she didn't want to talk against her trafficker, which is common.
Yeah.
But during this process they had Trafficking Hope advocates with them, and we go in and talk to them about the well house or victim services, but at that time she didn't want any part of that. She met her trafficker on a dating website. He was going to be the boyfriend. It soon turned into a horrific trafficker. He moved her across 3 different states. He would not let her out of his sight except when she had a client.
Yeah.
And even if she went to the restroom, he had the door open. He monitored her phone. and he was just treating her horribly. So she got picked up in 2017, and the advocates talked to her. She refused help. She didn't need help. Well, 2 years later, he had choked her out so many times that she often had to wear a neck brace.
Oh my gosh.
And then he physically abused her, broken arm, tooth. But he had taken her out, and they'd come back into Alabama. And he had her tied up in a hotel room with an extension cord. And this was 2 years down the line from that 2017 arrest. And she said, I've had enough. She got free.
Yeah.
Ran. Not always is that the case. But the Well House was stuck in her mind because they were a victim-centered police department.
Yeah. And
had advocates there to talk to her. And she reached out to the Well House crisis number, was able to get help. The one thing about the Well House, they come in once they don't ever have to leave if they choose when they leave.
Yeah.
So she has a residence there. She's a full-time student, has a full-time job, is now in criminal justice because she's going to work to go out and help other victims like herself. Awesome. And those are the success stories that are out there that need to be told, so there's hope for others. But she is just great. She's doing great.
Yeah.
But of all that 2 years time, that's what stuck in her mind.
Yeah.
I need to find this phone number, and that's what she did, and she got help.
Oh my gosh.
And when you have law enforcement so dedicated for victims' help that they bring in advocates, that's the connection at times that helps save their life, even if it's not in the end, it might be later down the line.
Yes.
Oh
my goodness. I'm so glad she was able to get help.
She is doing so well.
I loved it. I wish that one day I could meet her, maybe on down the line, just so I could just see the progress that she's made and stuff like that. I feel like that's what makes everything that we do here in prevention worth it.
Yes.
Yes. That's what makes it so worth it, because people don't realize, like, there's a lot that goes into it. And like you said, with the coalition, you have to have that team there to help, and it just makes it so worth it. And that's why I'm so glad I'm in this field, because I'm like, we're literally out here making a difference.
You are.
It's
really, and it's so, making a difference is just so, it's real people. It's not numbers. Real people with lives changed.
Yes.
And them walking with their heads up, knowing this happened to me, but this doesn't define me.
Yes.
I'm going out there to help others as well.
Yeah.
And she's doing well. She's doing great.
That is so awesome. That's so awesome.
Well, and your coalition building, like you said, is so important. Sometimes we have a 12-week course that we do called CARES, and it teaches human trafficking and all. And it's so important for understanding of coalition, how important that is at getting help, because people initially come in going, okay, let's go and save everybody, and we all want to do that, but you have to have a plan in place for services, or you're just spinning your wheels. You can't help someone and say, oh, I have no place to send you for help. So it's important that we all work together, and you all are so excellent at working with others to make sure a plan is in place for help. Because that's when they really there is a difference made, that they've received that help.
Yeah, and y'all have a plan too. Like, I'm very excited, and I hope that one day we could, really like get a hold on this whole human trafficking thing, and then really dive in and start just helping, one another, getting everything, that we need, and putting all of our plans in place to make sure that there's people out there, whoever it is, whatever age they are, get the help that they need.
Well, I would encourage everyone to go to the Oxford Police Department. Chief Bill Partridge today just announced an area task force here for human trafficking. I am like so excited.
That's amazing.
And so if you'll go to his page on Facebook, it's announced as of today.
Oh my, see, that was perfect.
That is perfect.
The perfect insert to put in. I hope everybody heard that. Go to the Oxford Police Department page. And see.
You may have to go to Chief Partridge's page, but it's there. We're very excited. There's about to be some difference is made here in this community.
I'm very excited. Oh my gosh, that just made I could cry literally. That just made my heart.
I was
so
going
happy.
all around my house this morning. Go, yay!
This is awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So much
Thank you for having me.
For this, I'm so informed, and I hope that everyone that watches this video becomes more not only educated but proactive. That's
if you see something, say something.
That's, oh my gosh, please say that one more time for us.
If you see something, say something.
Yes.
Help somebody.
Please do not be afraid. I know some people are like, well, I don't want to butt in. It's not my business. Make it your business.
Yes.
Make it your business.
You know, Anaya Blanchard might be alive today.
Yeah.
Had the people who saw something, said something. And I know I'm not trying to cast any shame on them. I'm just saying sometimes we let things go because, you know, but it's not going to harm anything to say something. And if it's not anything, it's not anything, but it could be something.
Yeah. Same with the young lady that was in Miami. Was it last week or week before last? That the two guys had met her at a club. She was down there by herself. They drugged her and took her back to her hotel room. It wasn't even their hotel room. And past all these people getting there, saw that the girl was slumped over, and no one said a word.
I wasn't aware of that one.
No one said a word. And I'm like, if somebody would have just intervened or would have called the police or something, because they were only, I think, in the hotel room for an hour, and then they found her, I want to say the next day, and she was dead. And I'm like, if somebody would have just said something, she could possibly still be alive today.
And there was recently, help me out if you remember the city, the two trash collectors saw a suspicious car, older adult, young child, called, and that saved that child.
Really?
See something, say something.
Yes. Hats off to them.
Yes.
Because they just saved a child from either a lifetime of trauma or whatever traumatic event that they were just about to go through. So kudos to them, you guys. And I hope that y'all take these stories and y'all learn something, and like we said, see something, say something. We're going to list some numbers below. Ms. Pam, do you want to give them your Google Voice number?
Yes, my number is 205-259-8108, 205-259-8108. If you just need to talk to someone and you're just really not sure, just call me and we'll try to figure out resources for you. If you are a trafficked victim or a victim of sexual assault, please hear me. The shame does not belong to you. The shame belongs to the abuser. You are worthy. You are important. There are people out here willing to help you. Please reach out for that help. There are two organizations here in the Anniston-Oxford area that offer free counseling. There are also organizations like the Well House that have residential care. We can connect you to help. Please reach out. Please know that I know the fear of what you know. Sometimes the fear of the unknown is greater than that fear, but please reach out. And even if it's not today, reach out when you can, because there are people who care about you and who want to help you.
Absolutely.
And all you got to do is make a phone call and we'll see what we can do to help.
Awesome. And I will list some other resources on the page. So even if that's not the number you want to contact, we have about 3 other numbers that you can reach out to. And also here at ASAP, if you need any more information or would just like to speak to us, maybe you have a substance use disorder and that's the first step you would like to take, just give us a call at 256-831-4436 or visit our website, asaprev.com. Thank you so much for tuning in with us today, you guys, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
For more information, contact National Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-888-3737-888. Also, contact Second Chance Inc. at 256-236-7233. Also, the Well House Crisis, 800-991-0948. Thank you.